Did Disney just announce a Darkwing Duck reboot? Probably not, but let's talk about that. Today is November 13th, 2020. And if you've been on the internet today, looking around in your pop culture websites and the Disney Duck end of Twitter, you might have noticed that a couple of websites have called a Darkwing Duck reboot as a thing that's happening by Disney. But you gotta keep in mind, guys, this is the internet, and you can't really trust everything you see on the internet. But still, let's get into the claims. Both Variety and Deadline, pretty reputable sources in the entertainment industry, have reported that there is a Darkwing Duck reboot in the works at Disney Television Animation, specifically designed for Disney+. If you go off of Variety's headlines, that's kind of all we know. Something about a new Disney Plus series with Darkwing Duck. There's not many details beyond that, but what there are kind of makes this all seem a little bit weird. Rather than what most fans of Disney's DuckTales reboot from 2017 would expect, a continuation on the version of Darkwing Duck, Gosalyn, and Launchpad that they've been building for 3 seasons there, this seems to be pitched as something entirely new. And where it gets really odd is when you get to the people attached to the project. This isn't the same crew that made DuckTales. Supposedly, this new Darkwing Duck reboot would be made by Point Grey Pictures. I'm not super familiar with that, but that's Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, James Weaver, and Alex McCanty. And that's a very different lineup than you would expect from DuckTales. Specifically because looking at Point Grey Productions' previous work, a cartoon aimed at a younger audience really doesn't fit the build. This is a production company that's brought us things like An American Pickle, Preacher, and Amazon's The Boys. They've made a lot of other things, but at a glance, the ones I'm familiar with are definitely aimed at a more adult audience. And that's weird enough that you might wonder, is this story real? Is this a good match? Is it plausible that Disney has hired the folks behind Sausage Party to do DuckTales, or not DuckTales, but Darkwing Duck specifically, when they already have a series that's kind of established the character and is a great jumping off point? And the answer is maybe. Personally, I'm doubtful. Although Point Grey Pictures' history is usually focused on things for an older audience, they do seem to have some kind of untitled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated project coming up for Nickelodeon movies. And Darkwing Duck is definitely more of a comedic vehicle in terms of tone and jokes than DuckTales ever was. So bringing on more comedy-focused production team like Seth Rogen, who are starting to get into working on children's content, might make a lot of sense. But that doesn't mean we should believe these rumors just yet. Both the Variety and Deadline articles are both careful to say that no writer is currently attached to the project, with Variety specifically saying that should this project go to a series, it'll be on Disney+. Should. And this is extremely common. It's not rare at all for Variety to have a little bit of inside knowledge and talk about a show that might happen, something that's been talked about, and directors that might sign on to it. And this isn't even the first time with Disney we've seen this recently. I think Variety itself, as well as a bunch of other Hollywood publications, have talked in recent years about a live action Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers movie. And while over time that's actually been confirmed to be a real thing, if you go back and look at that project, over time the writers and directors attached to this idea have shifted and changed over time. So it's extremely likely that this is something that's been talked about, and Point Grey Productions has been asked to work on a new Darkwing Duck series. But that doesn't mean the ink is on paper and that it's signed and that it's happening for real. More importantly, I have not necessarily a source, but friends of this YouTube channel have told me that they've talked to people about this before and have a little bit of knowledge that makes them doubt this as well. Specifically, the folks over at the Duck Talks podcast say that they've heard off the record from someone they can't really name right now that there is a Darkwing Duck series that's been in talks for a while now at Disney Animation. And based on what they've heard about that project, this isn't what they're expecting. If you want that full story, you should definitely go check out ducktalks.com. You'll see the link to the article down in the description below, and there's also a preview of it over here. But I'm inclined to agree with them. It's really exciting to hear Darkwing Duck, see Darkwing Duck on the pages of Variety, as some sort of confirmation that Disney is talking about rebooting Darkwing Duck into its own series. But that's no guarantee that this version of it that we're seeing in this story is what's going to come to pass. That said, I do think there's some truth to this story. If I were to guess, I would say that Point Grey Pictures absolutely has been talking to Disney about this, and they absolutely pitched Disney on their version of a Darkwing Duck show. That's my guess. That's what I think happened. But I think they're not the only ones pitching it. If you look at DuckTales in Season 3, they've been working hard to develop the characters of Darkwing, Gosalyn, and Launchpad, almost as a backdoor pilot for a new Darkwing Duck series. And my guess would be that Point Grey Productions, maybe other production studios, and the DuckTales crew themselves have been pitching different versions of the show. And what we're probably seeing is a leak out of some discussions about what version they might want to greenlight for an actual series. I don't know a lot about animation production backend, but I do know that this is clearly way too early for things to be final. They might be each having second rounds of pitches, being asked to bring some storyboards and a first script idea. They might be asked to produce pilots so they could decide which one is right. Probably only the most likely candidate will be asked to do a pilot, but you never know. And DuckTales already has a pilot out there, so they already know what that show might look like if that episode was, in fact, intended as a backdoor pilot. But for now, even though this news is really exciting as Duck fans, I don't think we should count it this early. It's exciting to see that Disney is very obviously considering to do something with Darkwing Duck in the future, as well as Rescue Rangers, as we can see in that upcoming movie, all these old Disney afternoon properties. But that doesn't mean the Seth Rogen's Darkwing Duck is going to be the one. Though you never know, it might be. Jim Cummings, the original voice of Darkwing Duck, did retweet this article, so who knows what it means. It doesn't mean that they've got it. It doesn't mean they've been taken out. It's definitely a possibility. Personally, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not super familiar with Seth Rogen's work, but what I've seen of it doesn't seem to match what I think Darkwing Duck would be like. But that doesn't mean it can't be. In fact, it makes me excited to see his Ninja Turtles project that I only found out about today. Point Grey's Ninja Turtles project might be amazing, and they might be really great at writing cartoons of this kind. But what it does show, and I think is really interesting, is it might be a throwback to the original Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck creator Tad Stones, once in an interview, got a lot of flack for saying he considered DuckTales and Darkwing Duck to be different universes. And one of the wonderful things about the new DuckTales series is it brought those universes together in one canon together for the first time ever, and that was really cool. But this means that the new Darkwing Duck series might not be that different from the old one in that it might be its own thing, inspired by DuckTales, but not necessarily connected to it. And while that's not necessarily the future I want, I like the world that the DuckTales crew has built, that's okay too. Because if there's anything I've tried to push on this channel, if there's any idea that I've learned while making these YouTube videos, is that what I want isn't necessarily precious. It's what I want, and I have a right to be disappointed if what is created isn't what I want. But I think I also owe it to creators to give what they make a chance as well. So if Seth Rogen winds up making the Darkwing Duck I don't want to see, I'll still start watching it, and I'll still try and see what he was going for. And if I don't like it, if that's the version we get, that's okay. But if I do like it, that's great too. Because it's all about collaboration, being creative, and seeing what new places we can take these characters. And although I want Matt Youngberg and Frank Angonese's vision of Darkwing Duck, I'm happy to see where else it goes. That's it for this quick video about this news tonight. I don't really have much else to say. definitely, please check out Duck Talks if you want a little bit more commentary on this as well. I'm not really up to speed with what they know, but they have said in their blog that they've heard that a show is coming from a source that they trust, and then they're not sure that this is it, however. So we'll keep tabs on this as it develops, but for now, just don't get too excited. That's it for this one. As always, everyone, thanks for watching. I'll have new reviews soon, hopefully. And until then, take it easy, Internet.